I didn't expect to find you here.
This land holds many secrets, Maverick.
A cowboy came to buy land. The Apache chief offered him a deal. Marry his daughter or leave forever. There was just one catch. No one had seen the bride's face in 5 years. They said she was the ugliest woman in the tribe. They said she was cursed. But when the veil finally fell, the cowboy realized he had been tricked, just not in the way he expected. Subscribe to my channel. The Apache chief, Black Wolf, stared hard at Maverick. Do you marry my daughter or do you leave here forever? Maverick, the cowboy who had arrived barely an hour earlier looking to buy land, felt the world stop. Marriage? He only wanted a piece of land by the river. I don't understand, Maverick managed to say, taking off his hat slowly. I came to do business, not to find a wife. Black Wolf, an imposing man with silver braided hair and scars that told stories of battles, crossed his arms over his chest. The land is not for sale to strangers. But if you join our family, if you become one of us, then the land will be yours. Maverick looked around the Apache camp. He had arrived there after 3 days of riding through the desert. In town, they had a clear's throat warned him, don't go there. That land belongs to the Apaches. No one returns. But he didn't listen to warnings. He had spent 5 years looking for a place to settle, working on other people's ranches, sleeping under the stars without a home. And now this chief was offering him exactly what he was looking for, but with an impossible condition. Your daughter, Maverick said carefully. Can I meet her first? Black Wolf shook his head. His dark eyes gleamed with something Maverick couldn't decipher. She does not speak to strangers. She wears a veil. She always hides her face. Why? Because she is ugly, the chief replied without emotion. The ugliest in the entire tribe. That's why no one wants her. That's why she wears the veil day and night. The Apache warriors surrounding Maverick looked down uncomfortable. The subject was clearly delicate. Some women working nearby whispered among themselves. Maverick felt a knot in his stomach. He had come looking for land, not a wife, and definitely not a wife he hadn't even seen. With all respect, Chief, Maverick began. I only came to buy land. I am not looking to marry. Then leave now, Black Wolf interrupted with a firm voice, and do not return. My warriors will make sure you keep your distance. It was a barely veiled threat. Maverick looked at the 3 warriors who had escorted him there. Their spears gleamed under the desert sun. He was in no position to negotiate. Why are you doing this? Maverick asked, trying to understand. Why are you offering this to me? Black Wolf sighed, and for the first time Maverick saw something different in those hard eyes. Fatigue, perhaps, or paternal pain. Because my daughter deserves a chance. She has lived 5 years hidden, rejected, called names by people who don't even know her. The chief paused. And because you are the first man in years who has come here without fear, with honesty in your eyes, that says something about you. Maverick squeezed his hat between his hands. This decision would change his life forever. He thought about the years of wandering without direction, the cold nights wondering if he would ever have something of his own. When is the ceremony? He asked finally. A murmur ran through the camp. The warriors exchanged surprised looks. Black Wolf raised an eyebrow. In 3 days. The chief replied. The ceremony will be at sunset. Then I accept. The words came out of Maverick's mouth before he could fully think them through, but it was too late to take them back. The warriors began talking among themselves in Apache. Some seemed impressed, others confused. One of the elders shook his head negatively as if Maverick had just made a terrible mistake. Very well, Black Wolf said slowly. We will give you a tent to stay in for these 3 days. Prepare yourself, cowboy. Your life is about to change. As a young warrior guided him toward a small tent at the edge of the camp, Maverick took the opportunity to observe the place. The hide tents decorated with ancient symbols, the campfires drawing lines of smoke toward the sky, the children playing among the rocks. And then he saw her, a solitary figure standing by a distant tent. She was completely covered with a white veil that fell from her head to the ground. Nothing could be seen of her, not her face, not her hands, not even her exact shape beneath all that fabric. Silver bird, she did not move, but Maverick felt her gaze on him. Through that veil she was watching him, studying him, judging him perhaps. Maverick stopped for a moment looking at her from a distance. He wanted to say something, raise his hand in greeting, show that he wasn't afraid, but the words wouldn't come. The warrior pushed him gently. Come. Your tent is this way. Maverick kept walking but turned his head once more toward the figure in the white veil. She was still there, motionless as a statue watching him. At that moment, a question shot through his mind lightning. What was beneath that veil? Was she really as ugly as they said, or was there something more to this story? The sun was beginning its descent toward the mountains, painting the desert orange and red. In 3 days, that veil would be lifted. In 3 days, Maverick would discover the truth. He entered his assigned tent and sat on the skins that served as a bed. He touched the bag of coins on his belt. He had come to buy land with money. Instead, he would buy it with a marriage to a woman he had never seen, a woman everyone called the ugliest in the tribe, a woman wrapped in mystery and rejection. Maverick closed his eyes and breathed deeply. There was no turning back now. He had given his word, and a man of honor did not break his word. But deep in his chest, he felt something strange. It wasn't exactly fear. It was something different. It was anticipation. What secret did that white veil hide? In 3 days he would know. Fate had begun to move. The news spread like wildfire through the town. Did you hear? The new cowboy is going to marry the ugly one. Which Apache? Silverbird. Chief Black Wolf's daughter. The one who wears the veil. That woman is cursed. Maverick had decided to return to town for supplies before the ceremony. He needed clean clothes, some food, maybe a gift for his future wife. But as soon as he dismounted in front of the general store, he felt the stares. The store owner, a fat man named Thomas, looked at him with wide eyes. Is it true what they're saying? You're going to marry Black Wolf's daughter. It's true, Maverick replied while looking at some shirts on the counter. Thomas whistled low. You're crazy, boy. Completely crazy. Why do you say that? Because no one has seen that woman in years. She wears that veil day and night. They say her face is horrible, that's why she hides. Maverick paid for the shirts without answering. He wasn't going to argue with someone who didn't even know Silverbird. Outside the store, a group of men had gathered. Among them was Sam, a cowboy Maverick had worked with the previous year on a ranch near the border. Sam had a bottle in his hand and a red face. Maverick, Sam shouted. Come here, friend. We need to talk. Maverick approached, tying his purchases to his horse. Hello, Sam. I didn't know you were in this town. I got here a month ago. I work on the Morrison Ranch. Sam grabbed him by the arm. I heard what you're going to do. Tell me it's a lie. It's not a lie. You're crazy. Sam shook his head. Do you know what people say about that woman? They say she's cursed. They say every man who approaches her ends up with bad luck. They're just stories. Maverick replied, freeing himself from Sam's grip. Just stories. Another man from the group interrupted. 3 years ago, a trader tried to do business with the Apaches. He got too close to that woman. A week later, his wagon overturned and he lost all his merchandise. That's coincidence, Maverick said. And what about the hunter who saw her by accident near the river? Added a third. The next day, he broke his leg, couldn't work for months. Maverick looked at all of them. Superstitious men, scared by shadows. I don't believe in curses. Sam stepped closer, lowering his voice. Look, friend, I know you. You're a good guy, you deserve better than this. Marrying a woman you haven't even seen. A woman even her own father says is ugly. The land she comes with is good, Maverick explained. It's my chance to have something of my own. There are other lands, other opportunities, Sam insisted. You don't have to do this. We can look for work together somewhere else. I know ranches that need good cowboys. For a moment, Maverick hesitated. He looked around the town, the wooden houses, the people watching him with pity or mockery, the clear sky over the distant mountains. Was he making a mistake? But then he remembered something. He remembered the solitary figure with the white veil watching from the shadows. He remembered Black Wolf's words. My daughter deserves a chance. And he remembered something more important. He remembered all the years of wandering without purpose, without a place to belong. I already gave my word, he said finally. The ceremony is in 2 days. Sam let out a frustrated sigh. Then there's nothing I can say to change your mind, no. The men dispersed, shaking their heads in disapproval. Only Sam remained. Listen, Sam said, his voice now more serious. If you're really going to do this, at least be careful. The Apaches are proud people. They don't forgive easily if you offend their traditions, I know. And that woman, if she's as ugly as they say, if she really is cursed or not, treat her well anyway. No one deserves to be rejected their whole life. Those words surprised Maverick. Coming from Sam, who moments earlier had been trying to dissuade him, they sounded sincere. "I will," Maverick promised. Sam patted him on the shoulder. "Good luck, friend. You're going to need it." When Sam left, Maverick stood alone on the dusty street. The sun was beginning to set and the shadows were lengthening. From a window he saw an older woman watching him, shaking her head sadly, as if she already considered him lost. Maverick mounted his horse and began the return journey to the Apache camp. The road twisted between red rocks and thorny cacti. As he rode, he thought about everything he had heard, the curses, the warnings, the superstitions. But there was something no one mentioned. No one asked how Silver Bird felt. No one wondered what it was like to live hidden behind a veil, rejected by everyone, called ugly by people who didn't even know her. The sun touched the mountains. When Maverick arrived at the campfires were already lit and the smell of food filled the air. The children played among the tents, their laughter clear and pure. And there, in the same place as the day before, stood the figure in the white veil, Silver Bird, motionless, silent, watching. Maverick dismounted and walked slowly toward her. He stopped a few meters away, respecting her space. "Hello," he said simply. She didn't respond, didn't even move. "I know you probably don't want to talk to me," Maverick continued, "and that's fine. I just wanted you to know that in 2 days we will be married, and I promise to treat you with respect." The veil moved slightly in the wind. For a long moment nothing happened. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded her head. It was the first communication between them, small, silent, but significant. Maverick returned to his tent with a strange feeling in his chest. In 2 days that veil would be lifted, and whatever he found beneath it, there was no turning back. His fate was sealed. The night before the ceremony, the Apache camp buzzed with activity. The women prepared special food. The men tuned their drums. The children ran excitedly from tent to tent. A wedding was an important event, even if this one was different. Maverick couldn't sleep. He had tried to close his eyes for hours, but his mind wouldn't stop spinning. Tomorrow he would marry a woman he had never seen. Tomorrow his life would change forever. He decided to go for a walk. The desert night was cold and clear. The stars shone like diamonds on black velvet. The camp's campfires had died down to red embers that pulsed softly. He headed toward where the horses were kept. The tribe had magnificent animals, wild mustangs tamed with patience. Pinto horses with perfect spots, strong, fast mares. They were the pride of the tribe, more valuable than gold. Maverick leaned on the makeshift fence and watched the animals sleep. His own horse was there, mixed in with the others. At least his old companion seemed to have adapted well. Then he heard something, a crackle, soft, almost imperceptible. The kind of sound someone makes when trying to move silently but fails. Maverick tensed, straining his ears. There it was again. It came from the back of the corral, where the darkness was deepest. He moved without making noise, sticking to the shadows. His years as a cowboy had taught him to move like the animals he tended. Slow, patient, silent. Then he saw them. 3 figures crouched by the fence, working on the ropes that kept the horses penned in. They wore wide-brimmed hats and bandanas covering their faces. Thieves. Maverick's heart began to beat faster. He had to act fast, but also smart. If he shouted to alert the camp, the thieves might escape in the confusion. But if he tried to stop them alone, it was 3 against 1. He made a decision. He crouched down and picked up stones from the ground. Small, the perfect size. Then he moved in a wide arc, positioning himself behind the thieves. "Good evening, gentlemen," he said loudly. The 3 men spun around sharply. Maverick could see their surprised eyes above their bandanas. "Who the hell are you?" one of them growled. "Someone who has a problem with thieves." Maverick replied calmly. The biggest of the 3 stepped forward. "Get out of here, cowboy. This isn't your problem." "Actually, it is. Those horses belong to my future family." The thieves exchanged glances. Then the big one laughed. "Your future family? You're going to marry an Indian?" "Yes," Maverick said simply. "And I'm not going to let you steal from my wedding." "Then you're dumber than I thought," the thief said. Lunging forward, Maverick was ready. He dodged the first punch and threw one of his stones. It hit the thief in the forehead, making him stagger. The second thief ran toward him, but Maverick spun and hit him with his elbow in the stomach. The man doubled over with a groan. The third was smarter. He hung back, assessing. He was thinner than the others, faster, probably. 2 against 1 now, the thin thief said. You don't like those odds, do you? But the big one had already recovered. Furious, he charged like a bull. Maverick waited until the last second and stepped aside. The thief crashed directly into his thinner companion, and both fell to the ground in a tangle of arms and legs. The second thief, the one who had taken the elbow, tried to get up. Maverick didn't give him time. He pushed him back to the ground and pulled the bandana off his face. Guards, Maverick shouted finally. Thieves at the coral. The tents began to light up. Confused voices filled the night. Apache warriors came running, some half asleep, others already carrying spears. The 3 thieves tried to escape, but it was too late. The warriors surrounded them in seconds. The big one tried to resist, but 3 spears pointed at his throat made him reconsider. Black Wolf arrived moments later with a blanket over his shoulders. He assessed the situation quickly. What happened here? Maverick pointed to the 3 men on the ground. They were trying to steal the horses. I found them cutting the coral ropes. The chief looked at the thieves, then at Maverick, then back at the thieves. His expression was unreadable. You stopped them alone? Yes. One of the warriors, a young man with braided hair, checked the coral ropes. It's true, Chief. They're cut. These men came to steal. Black Wolf approached Maverick. He studied him in silence for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he put a hand on his shoulder. You saved our horses. You saved the pride of our tribe. I only did what was right, Maverick replied. Many men would not have risked their lives for horses that are not yet theirs, the chief said. His voice had a new tone of respect. But you did. The warriors around murmured among themselves. Maverick caught some words in Apache. Brave, strong, worthy. One of the tribe's elders approached. His face was covered in deep wrinkles and his eyes had seen many moons. He spoke in Apache to Black Wolf, who nodded. Old Eagle Sage says the spirits guided you tonight. The chief translated. He says you are worthy to join our family. Maverick didn't know what to say. He hadn't done anything extraordinary. He had only protected what was right to protect. Among the crowd that had gathered, he saw a familiar figure. The white veil glowed in the torchlight. Silver Bird was there watching, and although he couldn't see her face, Maverick felt something different in her posture. She no longer seemed so rigid, so distant. The warriors took away the thieves who would be escorted out of Apache territory with a clear warning. Never return. The camp slowly returned to calm, but something had changed. As Maverick walked back to his tent, the warriors who passed by nodded with respect. The children looked at him with admiration. The women smiled. He was no longer just the stranger who had come to marry the chief's rejected daughter. Now he was the man who had protected the tribe. Before entering his tent, Maverick looked once more toward where Silver Bird had been. But she was gone, like a ghost in the night. Tomorrow would be the ceremony. Tomorrow the veil would be lifted. But tonight, Maverick had won something more valuable than land. He had won respect. The sunset sun painted the desert orange and purple as the ceremony began. Maverick stood in the center of the camp wearing a new shirt he had bought in town. His heart was beating so loudly, he was sure everyone could hear. And the entire tribe had gathered around the ceremonial fire. The drums began to sound, a constant deep rhythm that seemed to come from the earth itself. The women sang in Apache, their voices rising toward the sky like birds. Black Wolf stood before Maverick, dressed in his best ceremonial clothes. Eagle feathers adorned his hair and sacred paints decorated his face. Today, the chief said loudly so all could hear, a stranger becomes family. An outsider becomes a brother. Maverick has shown courage, he has shown honor. He is worthy to join us. The warriors struck their spears against the ground in approval. The sound rumbled like thunder. Then she appeared. Silver Bird walked slowly between the tents, escorted by the 2 elder women. The white veil covered every part of her, from head to toe. She moved with grace, but Maverick could feel her nervousness in every step. The camp fell silent. Only the drums continued their steady rhythm. Silver Bird stopped in front of Maverick, barely a meter away. It was the first time they had been so close. He could see the veil moving slightly with her breath. Black Wolf raised his hands to the sky. The spirits watch us. The sun is witness. The earth is witness. He paused, his eyes moving between Maverick and his daughter. May this union bring blessings to you both. One of the elder women approached with a smoking bowl. Inside were sacred herbs that filled the air with a sweet, earthy aroma. She passed the smoke around Maverick, then around Silver Bird. Another elder approached Maverick and tied a red cord around his wrist. She did the same to Silver Bird, connecting them symbolically. "What is bound here cannot be separated," Black Wolf said solemnly. The drums increased their rhythm. The women sang louder. The ceremonial fire crackled and sparked, sending embers toward the darkening sky. Then the moment came. Black Wolf looked at his daughter. For the first time since Maverick had known him, he saw real emotion on the chief's face. His eyes glistened, not with hardness, but with something softer. Paternal love, perhaps, or maybe relief. "The time has come," the chief said. His voice was now softer. The veil must be lifted. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the drums stopped. 200 people held their breath. Black Wolf approached his daughter and gently placed his hands on the edges of the veil. Maverick felt his stomach lurch. What would he see? A deformed woman? Horrible scars. Why had everyone in the tribe rejected her? The chief began to lift the veil slowly. First appeared her bare, delicate feet, then her legs, covered by a beautifully decorated buckskin dress. Then her small, fine hands. The veil rose higher and higher. Maverick saw Silver Bird's neck, slender and elegant, then her chin, and then the veil fell completely. Maverick forgot how to breathe. Silver Bird was absolutely beautiful. Not just pretty, but extraordinary. She had high, delicate cheekbones, perfectly formed lips, a straight, elegant nose, but what truly captivated Maverick were her eyes. They were different. One was a deep brown, warm as the earth after rain. The other was a bright, clear blue like the summer sky. Two different colored eyes. Maverick had heard of this, but had never seen it. Heterochromia, the doctors called it. Some people were born that way with eyes of different colors. The camp exploded in murmurs. Some warriors looked confused. The women whispered among themselves. The children pointed with curiosity. But Maverick couldn't look away. Not from horror, but from wonder. Silver Bird looked directly at him, and in those mismatched eyes was fear. Fear of being rejected once more. Fear of seeing disgust on Maverick's face. But Maverick felt no disgust. He felt something completely different. "You are beautiful," he said quietly. Just for her. Silver Bird's eyes widened in surprise. For a moment she seemed not to believe what she had heard. "Your eyes are," Maverick searched for the right words. "Unique. Like dawn and sunset together." A tear rolled down Silver Bird's cheek, then another. But they were not tears of sadness. Black Wolf watched the scene with a serious expression. Then he spoke, his voice resonating over the silent camp. "My daughter was born with this difference. In our tribe, some saw it as a curse. They said the spirits were confused, that they didn't know what color to give her eyes. They said she would bring bad luck." The chief paused, his gaze sweeping the crowd. "I called her ugly. I hid her behind a veil. But I did not do it because she was ugly." His voice broke slightly. "I did it to protect her because I knew that men from outside would come. Men who would see her beauty and want to take her for the wrong reasons. Men who would not see her heart, only her face." The camp was completely silent. "I needed to find a man who would agree to marry her without knowing what she looked like. A man who could see beyond appearances. A man of honor." Black Wolf looked directly at Maverick and I found him. Maverick felt the weight of those words. Everything had been a test. The ultimatum, the warnings about her ugliness, the veil. All designed to find someone who would accept Silver Bird for who she was, not what she looked like. Silver Bird took a step toward Maverick. Her lips trembled slightly as she spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft as the wind through the trees. "Do my eyes really not bother you?" Maverick took her hand gently. "Your eyes are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my life." She smiled. It was a shy smile, fragile as if she wasn't used to smiling. But it lit up her face like the sun. The drums began to sound again, this time with a joyful rhythm. The women began to sing celebration songs. The children ran around the fire laughing and shouting. Black Wolf raised his hands. "The ceremony is complete. Maverick and Silver Bird are now husband and wife." The camp erupted in celebration. The celebration continued until late in the night. The drums never stopped. The women danced around the fire, and the men shared stories of home and bravery. But Maverick could barely concentrate on the party. His mind was still processing everything that had happened. Silver Bird sat beside him watching the celebration with a small smile. She no longer wore the veil and her long black hair fell freely over her shoulders. Every time someone passed nearby, She instinctively looked down as if she still wanted to hide. You don't have to hide anymore, Maverick told her softly. She looked at him with those extraordinary eyes. It's hard. For 5 years the veil was my protection. Why exactly 5 years? Silverbird sighed. When I turned 15, men started coming to the camp. Traders, hunters, explorers. They all looked at me strangely. My father noticed what was happening. What was happening? They wanted to take me away. One of them offered 20 horses for me. Another offered gold. They didn't care who I was. They just wanted to possess me like I was a beautiful object. Her voice grew firmer. My father got angry. He said no man would have me if all they saw was my appearance. Maverick was beginning to understand Black Wolf's wisdom. So he invented the story that you were ugly. Yes, he made me wear the veil and spread rumors. The chief's daughter is the ugliest in the tribe. She's cursed. The men stopped coming. They stopped looking at me. Silverbird touched her own face gently. But over time I started to believe the lies. I started to think that maybe I was ugly. That my different eyes were something bad. Your eyes are not something bad, Maverick said firmly. They are special. She smiled sadly. My mother used to say the same thing. She died 3 years ago. She said I was a gift from the spirits. That I had one foot in the world of day and another in the world of night. That I could see things others couldn't. And can you? Silverbird looked directly at him. I can see people's hearts. And your heart is good, Maverick. I knew it from the first moment you arrived. Just then, an elder woman approached them. It was the same one who had performed part of the ceremony. Her eyes sparkled with ancient wisdom. Let me speak with you, she said in Spanish. Her accent was strong but understandable. Maverick and Silverbird nodded. The elder sat down with difficulty, her bones creaking. I am Flower Moon. I am the healer of this tribe and the keeper of our stories. It's an honor to meet you, Maverick said. Flower Moon looked at Silverbird with affection. This girl is special. When she was born with 2 different colored eyes, some said it was a bad sign, but I knew the truth. What truth? Maverick asked. Eyes of 2 colors are a mark of the chosen ones. In the ancient stories of our people, only great spiritual leaders were born that way. They could see the past with one eye and the future with the other. They could walk between 2 worlds. Silverbird looked surprised. You never told me this, grandmother. Because your father asked me not to. He wanted to protect you from those who would seek to use you for your gifts. There are bad people who believe that someone with your eyes has power and would try to capture you for that. Maverick felt a chill. That's why the chief was so careful. Exactly. Flower Moon nodded. Black Wolf is a wise father. He knew you needed a man who would accept you without knowing your beauty or your special gifts. A man who would choose you only for honor and for heart. The elder looked at Maverick intensely. And you, Cowboy, passed the test when you agreed to marry without seeing her face. When you protected our horses without expecting a reward, you proved your true character. Maverick felt humbled. I only did what was right. That is exactly what makes a true man, Flower Moon replied. She stood up slowly. Now I will tell you something more. Your paths were meant to cross. The spirits showed it to me in a dream 3 moons ago. I saw a man in a hat coming from the east, and I saw how his arrival would bring change and healing. With those mysterious words, the elder walked away into the darkness, leaving Maverick and Silverbird alone again. The silence between them was comfortable now. The music and laughter of the celebration continued around them, but they seemed to be in their own bubble of tranquility. Are you afraid? Silverbird asked suddenly. Of what? Of being married to someone different. Someone with strange gifts. Maverick thought carefully before answering. I have spent my life feeling different. Without family. Without a home. Always looking for a place to belong. So, no, I am not afraid of someone different. In fact, I think that's why we understand each other. Silverbird took his hand. Her fingers were soft but strong. My father will give you the land he promised. It is good land near the river. We can build a house there. A house. Maverick felt warmth in his chest. Would you want to live there? Not in the camp with your tribe. I want to live where I can be myself without a veil, without hiding. Her mismatched eyes sparkled in the firelight. And I want to be with someone who sees me for who I really am. At that moment, Black Wolf approached. He no longer wore his usual serious expression. In its place was something that could be called happiness. Maverick, the chief said, sitting beside them. I want to thank you.
Thank me?
Why? For giving my daughter something I couldn't give her for 5 years. Freedom. Freedom to be herself. Black Wolf looked at Silverbird with tenderness. I thought I was protecting her with the veil and the lies, but I was only caging a bird that needed to fly.